Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 303, recorded live August 22nd, common era, year, whatever, post all that. I am your host, Todd Klindt, and once again, the podcast is being crashed by, well, I'll let him break the bad news to you.
Good luck for all you. Hello, it's Shane Young with the fabulous Bold Zebras here to make this Todd show not as terrible. I actually, the chat room's pretty much started a change.org petition at this point to rename the show the Todd and Shane Show, so you're in trouble, buddy.
So soon President Obama will have to respond. They'll get enough signatures, and he'll have to come out and talk about the sovereignty of the Todd Klindt podcast and all that.
Yeah.
I get that, and to those of you out in podcast listener land, I just have to apologize. I gave Shane the username and password once so he could fill in for me, and now I can't get the guy out. I just can't every time I show up. So I apologize, but he is here to provide commentary and that feeling of superiority as we talk about technology and things. Any good TV show, you've got the people that you look up to and the people you look down to. We got them both now, so we got that going for us. He provides a very valuable service.
Well, you could be like the whole the Cincinnati Zoo Guerrilla thing. Right now there's a petition to stop the petition. So maybe you should have a petition to stop the petition. I guess the zoo came out today with this whole thing on they're tired of the Harmy memes and stuff. They're like, we're trying to heal blah 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 blah. I was like, so there you go. That can be your path.
The petition about the petition. That's very meta. I like that. That's good stuff. I'm going to do that. While we dig in, though, got to give a shout out to the folks at Rackspace. They pay my paychecks. They gave me the flags that I can't find that I would hang behind me. You can go to sharepoint.rackspace.com or rackspace.com/Microsoft. If you want to talk to me, I am at Todd Klindt on Twitter. I am todd.klindt@rackspace.com. I'm on Instagram, though I never post anything. Shane, tell the fine folks how to get a hold of you.
So with me, you can go to boldzebras.com. I'm on Twitter at Shane's Cows. I'm on the YouTubes, right? Everyone likes to watch me talk more and more and more. So I got
No one likes that. Not a single person.
I think you're wrong. I've got like 4 subscribers now. I'm moving up the list. It was 3 last week.
You've increased 33% in the last week. If you keep that growth up.
Hey, look at you showing off your fancy math. It's been a long time since someone's gotten that one right. 3 to 4, isn't that 25%?
So for those of you that are not privy to the thoughts inside of Shane's head, there was a poster at the Cincinnati airport that had that on it, and it just drove him wild every time you'd pass by it. So
yeah, they went out of business finally, thank goodness.
Serves them right.
All right, so that's our intro. Production notes, Todd. Where are we?
I have done something amazing, folks, for the first time since '08. I think I'm all caught up. I think I've got every recorded podcast edited and MP3'd and MP4'd and MP5 just for good measure, out on YouTube, out on the blogosphere, hidden in RSS feeds, the whole thing. They're all out there. Until now. Now I'm behind.
Lori and I just don't believe you. I need to go verify all of this. It's just not possible.
Yep. Click every link. Make sure that I'm not just making stuff up, sending people to Cat Overflow, all that kind of stuff.
Well, congratulations. I'm very proud of you.
Yep. And so Lori mentions that she normally would gently nudge me on Thursdays if everything wasn't out, but she's been going easy on me because of this. But now, Thursday. So Thursday, the 20th of August, this one will come out.
All right. Well, so then as your reward, maybe you should start off by talking about your love and desire for a Tesla and your new angle to convince the wife that this is what you deserve.
It's not a new angle. It has always been the reason. This is not about me wanting cool things or anything. But those folks who are unfortunate enough to hang out with me for any amount of time know that I have a huge love and desire for the Tesla automobiles, the Tesla S's. I've signed up before when they opened up the pre-ordering for the Model 3. I signed up for that, so I'm loaning Elon Musk $1,000 of my dollars because that guy looks like he needs some help. So he's got $1,000 of mine. Mark in the chat room is asking if I'm replacing the Firebird. No, certainly not. Certainly not. I'm gonna be buried in that thing. So and not that way either. So I've been lusting after one. They're kind of expensive automobiles, a touch more than we spend for cars here at the Klindt household, but I really like them. And I was out on the internet today and I saw a thing that warmed my heart. A Tesla X owner, so that is the SUV-ish version of the Tesla. It's it can seat up to 7 and all that. A guy got T-boned, kind of. It was in the front by a Tahoe, and everybody walked out without a scratch. Everybody was fine. He talked about how that Tesla X, it lovingly caressed them all in airbags and kept them all safe, and how the Teslas are nearly impossible to roll over because the bottom of the vehicle is where all the batteries are at, so it has an incredibly low center of gravity. And so this Tahoe came blowing through a stop sign at 45 mile an hour. And the other thing that was great about the Tesla, since it doesn't have an engine up front, it's got a what they call the frunk, the front trunk, and or what it turned out to be in this episode, another crumple zone. So it just collapsed around the car and took up all that. So I think what I'm kind of getting to now is I feel like I'm sort of irresponsible with my family's safety by not buying a Tesla. I feel like I'm just every time I step out of the house, I'm putting them in harm's way, and I feel horrible about that.
See, the problem is that Tesla costs so darn much, right? It's going to be like the old room that your grandma had where there was plastic over all the furnitures. You have to put plastic over the car. The kids won't be allowed in the car. They won't be allowed to use the airbags.
Well, so Lori can attest that when my children were very young, I started beating into them. And beating is purely a figurative term for anybody in law enforcement that's listening, or any mandatory reporters or anything like that. From a very young age, I instilled in them that they don't get to have candy and stuff in my car, to the point that my wife picked Lori and her husband up from the airport once. I wasn't even in the vehicle. They hadn't gotten me yet. And they got in, and one of the first things my youngest daughter said to Lori was, you can't have candy in Daddy's car, right? So I'm raising them right, so hopefully if we got the Tesla, they would appreciate that and treat it with the respect and love that it deserves.
Yep, another note for the daddy issues from my boys to use to date your daughters at a later year, so thank you for that.
If you'd like to have candy in my car, little girl. So in the chat room, Christopher's asking if the Teslas work well in cold climates. Yeah, they work fine. I live in Iowa. So a couple of things about that. Teslas, because of weird tax issues, are huge in Norway. So Hasselhoff is big in Germany. Teslas are huge in Norway. Obviously, it gets a little cold in Norway. So basically what happens is the batteries have their own climate control. And so the car is able to use itself to keep the batteries warm, so everything will start. You have less range, but the car tells you that. There's no surprise part. You don't drive 75 miles and just stop because you've run out of battery. So Blake in the chat room is saying there's not any superchargers in Iowa. That is absolutely not true. There are superchargers in Council Bluffs, and any day now there's a supercharger opening in Des Moines, which is like 30 miles south of me. So that is the case. But yeah, so I've got some buddies here in town that have Teslas and have had it over the cold weather. It's doable. It'll work. And you can heat them up. You can do the thing with the app. Again, Shane, someone will explain apps to you. But there's an app for your car, so you can say, I'm going to be out in the car in 5 minutes. Start warming it up now. It'll do all that for you.
Well, they have the all-wheel drive now, right? That was, I think, the big change that helped a lot of the northern climates start to say, all right, maybe I can consider a Tesla.
Yeah, and so they call that the D model because it's dual motors. So there's the S, which is single motor, and D, which is dual motor. So yeah, four-wheel drive essentially. Yeah. It's so yeah, I don't know why. When I get done with this thing, I'm just going to go ahead and order one. I'm sure my wife would be fine with it. She'll understand the safety thing.
Yeah, well, that's all I need is you giving Elon Musk more money. If he took those thousands of dollars you all gave him and he bought a bunch of he's buying Solar City with it, right? He's not actually building your car with it. He's buying Solar City. And as a Solar City stockholder, I'm not a fan of that because I bought it at a price that he's not paying. And
yeah, it's good to be the king. But that's awesome too because the way my new house is, all well, half, not all the roof, but half of the roof faces due south. So if I wanted to get something like that, it would work out well. The idea of my house charging my car, love it. So moving on, another completely non-SharePoint, non-whatever related thing. Last week, I was renewing some certificates at work for some SSL certificates, and I'm like, you know what I haven't done? I've never put SSL on toddklindt.com. And so last week I put SSL on toddklindt.com. So you can go to https toddklindt.com or www.toddklindt.com. I have not made everything fail over automatically yet, but I will likely do that soon. So my request for you guys is try it out, make sure that it works, make sure the certificate chains are in place and all that. And when I do finally flip that switch from HTTP to the much more secure and grown-up HTTPS, let me know if there's any problems with that.
Well, I would tell you to make sure you check those short URLs. I know several of them are still broken to this day, so
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
that'll be the hardest part I think for you, just because I don't know. It's I don't know. I used another one. I was using the load balance one, right? Good old blog post 107, and it wasn't working. I'm like, good thing I know it's just number 107. That stuff's hard to find without those short URLs.
Yeah, the search in SharePoint 2010 was good, but not great. It's horrible for the blog template. It's just terrible finding anything. So yes, that's good. Remind me sometime when we're not doing a podcast, and I will tell you how to go in and troubleshoot that error.
Fix them myself. Yeah,
There you
great.
go. Yeah, be the change you want to see on my website, Shane.
Now, change.org is my thing, not yours.
All right. So another big news last week, and this one, I was surprised, but not surprised. It was a crazy thing. But on Thursday of last week, Microsoft announced that they had open sourced PowerShell. Get out of town. And that it already worked on Linux. You can run PowerShell on Linux.
Don't they already have their own version of PowerShell? What do they really need our PowerShell for?
So if you'd listen to Unix guys, they would say they've got these shells that are good. I don't know. I think they're mostly just compensating. Yeah. So Unix, that a lot of where PowerShell came from is Bash and CSH and KCSH and all that kind of stuff. I think what it's for is for people who do multiple things. So, like myself, I've got a few Linux things. I've got some Raspberry Pis. I've got some of my networking gear runs Linux, things like that. You can now drop PowerShell on these things, and it's for a guy that knows a little bit of PowerShell. It'll make that a little easier. But imagine now you're managing hundreds or thousands of things, and some of them happen to be Linux, some of them happen to be Windows. You now have a common platform that you can do it all on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be interesting, right? So if you're using Linux as your daily driver, as your actual, desktop machine, and I guess now you could, do a remote session into your SharePoint server and do PowerShell magic right there from Linux.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. I will agree that trying to find that use case, I don't play with enough Linux to know that. But one of the things that you and I have talked about in private, and I think I probably talked about in public, is that the Department of Justice case, 15 years ago, radically changed how Microsoft is. Just radically changed how everything is. Changed Bill Gates. We could talk for days on that. And then when Satya came back, things changed again. And this is a good indicator of just the new Microsoft, and I like it. So.
Well, yeah, 'cause that used to be the fear, right? Was that someone would sit at a Linux workstation and do some of this stuff, and I guess now they're saying no problem.
Yeah, and Linus Torvalds' old thing, once Microsoft makes an app for Linux, that means we've won. And I mean, there was all this animosity and all that. Microsoft is really kind of getting rid of all that. So I wanted to bring that out in case you've got Linux and you want to drop PowerShell on there and play with it. But one thing that's been funny is there was obvious pushback from the Linux community because they're like, what do we need PowerShell for? We've got Bash, we've got all these kind of things. One of the things that PowerShell has had in place for 6-7 years now are all these aliases for common commands in Unix and DOS and all that. One of them was curl. Now curl hasn't been in there for 6 or 7 years, but there's a bunch of them. And so apparently the developer of curl, which is a URL retrieving thing, wget, it's the invoke web request. It's an alias for that. Those guys are pissed now because when you install PowerShell, it takes over that curl alias. Now, this was not Jeffrey Snover sitting back in his chair, maniacally twirling his evil guy mustache going, this is how we take over Linux. We steal it one command at a time. This was the PowerShell team with nothing but the best of intentions for Unix-using people, making it easy for them to learn PowerShell on Windows, 100 years ago, and it just happened to be some collateral damage. And so the Microsoft released all this as a Git repository, and the Unix guys came with their pitchforks and their big beards and all that, and raising all kinds of holy hell. And I read some of it. I couldn't read it all because it just made my brain hurt. But Jeffrey Snover, I've met the man, I've talked to him, he's a super chill guy, and he has handled that whole ridiculous brouhaha with an amazing amount of poise, where he should have been hoisted up on people's shoulders and celebrated, and he's got to put up with all this crap instead. I think he's handled it well.
Well, good for him. It's always amazing, right? No matter how hard Microsoft tries, there's always someone who's finding something evil in what they're doing. They gave me
Yeah,
free money. They must want to like infiltrate my wallet. I don't know.
yeah. And so he was on the Power Scripting podcast, Jeffrey Snover. For those of you that don't know Jeffrey Snover, he's basically the guy that invented PowerShell. And and I can't remember what his title is at Microsoft, a distinguished fellow or something like that. He's one of the smartest of the smart, and it was good stuff. So that's out there. If you have any experience on that with PowerShell on Linux, I'm going to be rebuilding my Raspberry Pi here tonight. Probably I'll put it on there. But if you have any, let me know. Drop me an email. I'd be curious to hear about that.
My last question on that, because we know that the stupid Mac OS is kind of a hybrid of Linux as well. Is PowerShell run there now, or somebody still got to go import that to get it to run natively?
I believe it does, but I say that as a guy who's never owned. Well, I've got a Mac Classic, Color Classic. That's the last Macintosh I've ever owned. So I don't know but I thought it did because it's BSD in the background or something.
Right. Yeah. So interesting.
So in other big news last week, the folks at Throt.com, so Brad Sams and Paul Throt, broke a news story that impacted me. I was surprised about this. So Windows 10, the Millennium, or not the Millennium, the Anniversary Edition came out.
ME, good old
The
ME.
Millennium Edition, beloved all over the world. The Anniversary Edition came out. Windows 10 had been out a year. One of the things that Microsoft did in that is they tightened down some video encoding on webcams, and they broke webcams that try to do high def, specifically the much loved Logitech C920, which is the webcam that I own exclusively all over my house, including this one that I'm using right here. So what happens is there are ways that when an application tries to use it in high def mode or something, that Windows 10 doesn't support the codec anymore, just kills the camera. And the way that I was experiencing it was with Link. So one day I could do video calls on this machine with this camera, and then Windows 10 updated, and the next day I couldn't anymore. The video would lock up all the time. And it was only with Link, and apparently that was the case. It was part of that OS upgrade.
As I say, because I have the same camera because you told me to buy it because you're a mean person like that. But I've not had this issue, right? And I've been making high def videos. I've been doing Skype calls. I've been doing the show, all using the fancy camera on Windows 10 Anniversary. No issue.
So yeah, and I've used it for Skype for pleasure, not Skype for business, Link. And I use it for an internal video tool that we use at Rackspace called Video, and obviously I use it for this. But it has something to do with how it switches over to high def. It's got something to do with the codec thing. But absolutely, starting like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't realize at the time that it went with the upgrade. But yeah, on this machine over here, which is not running the Anniversary Edition, works fine. This one, it doesn't. And so if you've got the Anniversary Edition and you've got that camera and you're having weird things, that's probably it. Rafael Rivera, who helped write some of the Windows books with Paul, has a registry key where you can tweak some stuff. I've not tried that yet, but apparently that helps. But welcome to the agile upgrading world of everything.
Well, great. And now what this really means is I haven't had the issue at all. I've been problem free. So next time I go to use my camera tomorrow, it's like, hey, I heard about this thing. I'm not going to work anymore. So great.
Yep.
So speaking of the Windows 10 anniversary, so I added it to my beloved Windows Phone last week. Oh, so cute.
And how did that go?
Well, the update installed just fine. Thanks for asking.
How did all your apps upgrade? Did they handle the new OS just fine?
I thought you'd appreciate this, right? So we all know that the Windows Phone 10 has like 7 or 8 apps for it. I have all 7 of them. Yep, only one of them now works post-update, so I've been real happy with that. They're just trying to take that list of apps they got to support and pare it down again. Apparently the Windows 10 anniversary update blew a bunch of them away.
So there's an obvious joke there about I'm surprised there were apps to break. I'll leave that one to the listener. Are you the only one having this thing? Like, did you go out to the Windows Phone forum and talk to the other guy using a Windows Phone? Is he having the same experience?
So I did, and it turns out that it's a licensing issue. So they didn't break the apps, they broke the licensing stuff. And if I deleted my Office 365 account from my phone, which it calls my work account, but it doesn't call my other Office 365 account or work account, whatever, remove that from my phone, it fixed all the apps. And so now I can just put that back on without issue. So Who knows what goofballs did, but I fixed it. So yay me.
That order that fruit phone. While I'm specking out my Tesla, get on Apple.com and get all that. Yeah, and there's just going to be more of this. That's the world we're in now. Just updates, updates, updates. That's
I know, and it's. I guess the good news, right, is that because the phone's so bad, I can also just hop in the Insider program, and there's 3 different rings now, right? There's the fast ring, the slow ring, and the preview ring. And so, I can just jump rings to at least try different versions and see if I can find fixes for things like that. Oh, I need a fruit phone. I agree, but
and they're not devoid of their problems either. The whole you're holding it wrong and all that, but at least you get some apps out of the deal. I mean, your phone breaks once in a while, but at least when it's not broken, you can do cool stuff.
yeah. Well, if some of these fine folks listening to the show would sign up for some consulting work through Bold Zebras, maybe Shane would be able to get himself a nice fruit phone.
There you go, folks. If you want to help a brother out, that's how you do it.
Or maybe I should go put one of those GoFundMe things. GoFundMe and see if people will buy me an iPhone.
So the other thing that you could do is develop your business and then sell it to Microsoft. See what I did there? Was that a segue in the notes?
But see, I got a joke that goes with that, and it'll mess up your segue. So I'm
well, take your joke. Take your joke. I need something to make fun of, so have your joke.
Oh, well, I'll appreciate that. So one of the things I posted yesterday on Facebook was about in Massachusetts they just passed a law where if you ride in an Uber, right, there's gonna be a 20-cent tax or fee or whatever added on to every ride. 5 of those cents goes to the taxi union so that they can invest in their own technology, right? So, heavens forbid they keep up with their own business, they do any of that shit. Instead of all of that, they're just getting it to be subsidized by all the people that switch to Uber. So I want anyone who's not using my consulting services to pay a fee so I get 5 cents every time so then I can get a fruit phone and not spend any of my own money.
That's a good business model. Now, could you do that just in Massachusetts? So the people in Massachusetts that aren't using your services, how?
Well, since we're already on Change.org getting Obama to step in, why don't we just stick with that and see if we get the whole U.S. put in?
There we go. I read about that too. I've not researched it much. Man, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of Uber, so I come in with a little bit of bias. The other thing is, if experience of my past experience is any indication of what the future behavior will be, the cabs will update all of the technology to whatever, but then when I try to pay with my credit card, the new technology won't work, or I'll try to swipe it in the thing in the back of the cab, and the dude will hand me his phone with a square thing on. He's like, oh, no, use this one instead, and I won't use. Oh, my goodness. Can't be too frustrated with that. Hate that.
Yeah, well, one of the things we were talking about, because, in Massachusetts they do, the cab people tell you, and this is way off topic, but the cab people tell you that, one of the upsides of riding in a cab is they have mandatory police inspections and they can ad hoc police inspect. And my whole point to that is, when I'm in a cab, I have no idea who this dude is, right? I got picked up in a dark alley by a guy who isn't always the best looking or best smelling person. Drive me around town in a stinky cab. I'm glad the police can check on me. When I'm in an Uber, Todd is losing it, by the way. When I'm in an Uber, someone knows where I'm at. Someone knows who's driving. Right? If I get abducted there, at least I feel like I have a chance. So
you're saying on top of the police safety inspections, maybe there should be like a Department of Health hygiene inspection. That should be added to the list of things. Is that what you're saying?
Tell me how many taxi cabs you think would pass the health department inspection.
We're on the same page. You're preaching to the choir here, and I feel the same way about the safety thing. I'm not saying that Uber is 100% safe. Certainly not going to convince anybody of that. But yeah, everything that I do is logged somewhere. Every person that I interact with, all of that. Yeah. We digress.
All right. So back to your segue.
Yeah, so Microsoft this week, I guess today they announced this, purchased an AI company called Jeannie. And they have explicitly said, and this is where we wrap this into the context of the show, that they're going to use this for Office 365. And what Jeannie does is it hits all the buzzwords. It uses machine learning and natural language and unicorn tiers to parse large emails and meeting requests and things like that to find times that work for everybody and space that works for everybody, and just helps automate some of all that thing.
Yeah, so really what it's a competitor to, if you're up in the AI world, is it's called X.AI, right? They have an automated assistant named Amy. And so like if I wanted to schedule a meeting with you, I would send the meeting invite over to you, and then I would copy Amy, and she would go back and forth with you to find a calendar time that worked for both of us, and then she would just automatically schedule it for me.
So do you know, does Jeannie do that? I don't know, I've never used Jeannie, and I never
I,
schedule anything with Office 365.
so I've never used Jeannie either, but from their description, that's what it seems like. It's that same type of concept that they want to. I always preach on, right? They want to bring context to the scheduling process, and so this goes back to the whole LinkedIn acquisition probably as well. The more context, the more things that they know about you, the more things they can do automatically for you. So there's no reason for you and I to trade emails back and forth when our schedules meet up, when an artificial agent can actually go in and look at both of our schedules and do all the math.
Yeah, and this seems like something like Cortana would do. This seems like how to bolt that in, because Cortana does a bunch of that stuff, reading your mail and reading your schedule and figuring stuff out. Um, yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, well, that artificial intelligence is fun, right? Because I think most of you know I work on Rescoper, right? Rescoper.com, which is the project management software that does artificial intelligence. We're the only ones in that space, and it's the whole idea of AI is to bring context to your decisions and to your project management, to your email calendar scheduling and things like that. And I really, I don't have a link to it, but last week someone also announced that there was a new marketing tool that uses artificial intelligence. And I guess this is my warning for all of you that where cloud was a big buzzword 6 or 7 years ago and everything became cloud, right? Remote desktoping into a server was cloud. Yay, cloud, right? Those were stupid commercials that everyone was offended by. AI is going to become that pretty quick. So you guys are going to start seeing anything and everything. It's going to be artificial intelligent grocery shopping, artificial intelligent apps. I mean, it's the world. So.
Yeah, well, good to get in on your buzzwords early before everybody else has. So there you go, work that in. But that's good stuff. And while earlier in the show we were mocking the updating, this is one of those great things that if you're using Office 365, it's in the cloud. You can take advantage of whatever Jeannie does as they trickle it out without having to update bits on your servers and all that. So I like it. So here's
done.
What?
Said almost done.
Yep. So, and I promised I'd get you out of here 2 minutes ago, and I didn't. So, Laura Rogers, if you're not following Laura Rogers on Twitter, Wonder Laura, find her. She posted an article today that reminded me of something I wanted to talk about. So, one of Shane and I's friends, Chris Johnson, who's been on and off at Microsoft forever, we've known CJ since the beginning of time. He left Microsoft here recently and started a new company called Hyperfish. There's a couple of things that are notable about that. One of them is when Shane started Bold Zebras, we all busted his huevos about what Bold Zebras was, and he whined about how tough it was to name businesses these days. I think a business named Hyperfish does a really good job of explaining how tough it is to give a business a good name. But CJ and his co-founder did follow the whole adjective, noun, animal thing like Bold Zebras, Hyperfish. We've got all that. He did that. But in all reality, what Hyperfish does is something that Shane and I several years ago said was kind of the next frontier. They're tackling identity. And Hyperfish is a tool that helps make identity work better and work more smoothly. And I haven't used the product itself. There's a link in the chat room to an article that Tony Redmond wrote about it. But basically, it's an agent that runs, scans your on-prem Active Directory, your Azure AD, finds users that don't have information they need, bolts things together, does some migrations and things like that. I think they're in the right space.
I absolutely agree, right? And as you alluded to, you and I have been talking about this for a few years now. If any of you are out there sitting, man, what could I go start and do and be really successful at and kind of get ahead of the curve? I think it's Active Directory. I mean, I know there's Active Directory consultants and products out there in the world already, But I think at some point we're going to see this mass exodus of people quit trying to upgrade the crappy ADs they've got and starting to say, how do I go and build a brand new AD in Azure AD, not migrate, not connect, but start over fresh and actually get my company back on the right foot? Because think about those people who have been with AD since 2000. There's just no way those things aren't train wrecks.
Right, and when you and I do our identity talk, part of that is just because people are dumb and they do dumb things. But part of it is in the 16 years since AD came out, Microsoft's guidance, the expert guidance, has changed so many times. So depending on where in that wave of guidance your AD was planted, you may be doing any number of things wrong. And there's, some of them you just get stuck. So I'm with you. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are just saying, heck with it, throwing their hands up and doing identity.
Yeah, I mean, .local is a great example, right? That was the best practice for like a year, and now we're
at least way more than a year, yeah.
And we tell people that have that, like, oh, your domain's worthless. Just get it away. Try again.
I point at them. I laugh. I'm just mean to those people. Yeah, and that was one of the that was the guidance. That was And how many times has the guidance changed on? Well, your AD controllers should point at each other for DNS. No. AD controllers should point at themselves for DNS. No. Your AD can. I mean, that's been all over. And so just depending on when you planted your tree in Active Directory, you never know where you're at.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So I haven't talked to CJ, but I might try to get him on the show and have him talk a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think CJ's product is it's scratching an itch that I think some people are in denial they even have, but I think at some point everyone's going to wake up and be like, oh, yeah, figuring out what's broke here is probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, Christopher in the chat room is saying that he doesn't know of any company that has a clean on-prem AD. I run an AD in my house for 2 people, one of whom never logs in. My AD's got all kinds of problems.
I was thinking the same thing. The SharePoint 911 AD was, I mean, it barely worked, and there was 20 of us on it, and it had never been upgraded, nothing. AD's hard.
Yeah, yep. So I'll see if I can get CJ on the show. And so if you don't already listen to it, CJ and another friend of ours, Andrew Connell, do the Microsoft Cloud Show. And so I've been on that. I don't know if Shane's been on that, but that's the same guy, Chris Johnson.
Yeah, there you go. Tell CJ he's not allowed on this show until they bring me on that show. You can get rid of me.
I don't know that they will. I don't think it's worth it to them. I think they would just go, well, I guess we don't get to pimp our product on your show then. I don't want to back them into that corner.
Oh, CJ loves me.
He doesn't. All right, so the final thing is something that neither Shane nor I really have anything to talk about is the SharePoint framework, whatever. Shane, take it away. The notes, this is all on you.
Oh, great. So there was pointed out that the SharePoint Framework developer preview released today. Apparently this adds a bunch of buzzwords, right? You can do modern UIs and modern web parts in Office 365 developer tenants now, so you can use agile stuff and React statements and things like that. I don't know, Devi words, but It seemed like a really big deal for the developers, so I thought we should include it.
Yeah, so this is kind of a thing Microsoft said in May at the May the 4th event, that this was going to be the next generation of framework for building web parts in SharePoint. And so today was kind of one of their first steps in making good on that promise. So like you said, it only works on Office 365. It only works in developer tenants right now. And it's just, I know a few developers, like I'm friends with them on Facebook and other social things. I've not seen anybody go, this is the greatest thing. I cannot believe how much I love this. I have not seen any of those posts.
I think those people have got to just be burnt out at this point, right? Because, I mean, we had, farm solutions, then we had sandbox solutions, then we had apps, and then now we got client-side stuff. I mean, if they wait 6 months, there'll be another way to do development in SharePoint. So,
and I think there's even more. So then there was, apps. Then they got changed to something else because you couldn't call apps because of phone apps. It really it's got to be tough for those guys. And part of being in our field is it's ever changing, and that's good and that's bad. I love it. Mark Manassi, I was talking to him about that one time, and he was saying that some of the research that he's read shows that helps keep your brain from atrophying, and God knows I need all the help I can get. So I mean, it's good. I like it, but on the other hand, man, you just can't sit still for a second, and your technology's changed out from under you.
Yeah.
It's
well, unless you're using the on-prem version. So one of the interesting things in the article was that they're like, hey, we're releasing this to Office 365. We're going to start rolling this into the tenants. And for you on-prem folks, sometime in 2017, we think we'll get to you. Just a reminder
Yeah.
that SharePoint 16 is going to become a bastard child sooner or later.
Yeah, I don't share your pessimism on that. That might be a topic for one of the weeks when we don't have a lot to talk about. It's just what we think that's going to look like. But yeah, I agree. The on-prem folks are going to be the last ones to get it, and I think that's kind of how that's going to work going forward with stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's not because previewing the next discussion on this, right? It's been interesting as I've created content around installing and configuring 2016 versus 2013 that as best I can tell, no one's actually doing 2016 on-prem yet. I mean, some people are playing with it, but no one's rolling it out. No one's deployed it yet. They're still all in 2010 or 2013, and I don't know. Is this weirdness kind of what's stopping people from migrating to 2016 or not?
I don't know. So if I had to guess, I would say that it's a combination of a couple things. One of them is Office 365, and people are just the fact that it doesn't suck the way that it used to. It's actually usable, and part of it is SharePoint 2013 is pretty solid. I mean, when SharePoint 2010 came out, people were banging down the doors to install it, but that's because SharePoint 2007 had a lot of gaps. It did a lot of great things, but there were a lot of gaps that 2010 filled, and people were anxious for it. 2016 doesn't solve a lot of those problems for 2013 users that I can
Yeah.
tell.
And I think that's definitely one of the points, right? Because if you remember 2007, we had people on running production on 2007 beta 2. That was how anxious they were to get on those bits.
Yeah,
And now we're 6 months into it, and they're like, yeah, there's no reason to move to it yet.
yeah. Things have changed. All right. Do you want to talk about the last one, or should we save that for another week since we're
Yeah, we'll save it for another week. We're out of time.
All right. So for promotion, the first thing I wanted to talk about, we got Laura Rogers in the chat room. Everybody say hi to Laura. Laura does this little thing on Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. Central called the SharePoint Power Hour. And I'm going to be jumping in on that this week. And Laura and I are going to be talking about OneDrive for Business. And there'll be some OneDrive for Pleasure chat in there as well. But we'll be in there. So we'll be, chatting about things that her and I have done, taking questions from the crowd, all that kind of stuff. You can go to iwmentor.com. That's her business. And you can go to youtube.com/WonderLaura67 for the channel. She'll put something in there too.
I always prefer Wonder Laura 66. She's a much nicer Laura.
Yeah, the upgrade from Wonder Laura 66 to 67, kind of questionable, kind of like that SharePoint 2013 to SharePoint 2016. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. All right, what else are you doing?
Then in a month, I'm going to be at Ignite. I'm going to be doing some SharePoint 2016 stuff that apparently nobody's going to care about, so I should stop working on it. But I'm going to be there. That's in Atlanta. I would tell you to go out to ignite.microsoft.com and sign up, but I think it's full. I think there's no more room at the end. But that's September 26th through the 30th in Atlanta. I'm going to be there. I think Rackspace is going to have a booth there, so swing by. I'm going to be there all week. If you're at Ignite, come find me for goodness sakes and introduce yourself, shake my hand, do whatever. I would love to. I'd love to chat with you. Any progress on your pass to Atlanta?
I haven't heard, and last I saw, he just went on vacation, so I'm guessing it's not getting better this week.
Oh, jeez. Lori tells me we're having a podcast breakfast, so I had forgotten about that. So we'll do that. So anybody who wants to, podcast listeners, whoever wants to get out and hang out, we'll have breakfast one morning somewhere at Ignite and do that. And we'll get a picture of Shane. I don't have any of the Shane bobbleheads, so maybe I'll bring a cow and we'll set a picture, set that next to him.
I think the dog ate all the cows, right? Show you one right now.
The dog ate all the cows. Title fodder on that one right there. Then in October, I'm going to be in Slovenia for SharePoint Days. You can go there. That's October 24th and 25th. Then I'm going to hop on a plane and fly lickety-split up to Stockholm for the SharePoint Exchange Forum. That's October 27th and the 28th. And going to be a busy year, all that. So did you have anything you wanted to pimp while we're doing that at the end?
Well, so Laura just paid me $5 to pimp her workflow class. I've been spending my whole week writing labs for, not really writing the labs for, because I'm not smart enough to do that, correcting the typos and formatting her labs and working through the steps. So her workflow class is coming up, a lot of fun. You'll learn lots of things. I did teach Laura something about workflows today. True story.
Did you find a new way to break something or screw something up?
No, I found this cool workflow history list that she had never seen before. So I was like, winner for me.
That thing's like as big as a house, too. I don't know how you missed that thing. That's millions of rows.
Oh, it was crazy. So there's that. There's always the YouTube channel. I did get the installing and configuring SharePoint 2013 on Azure video up. I still haven't done all the fluff content that goes with it, so I haven't really pushed it to the web yet, but it's out there. There'll be a link right here so you guys can all check it out and tell me how terrible it is. But I think that's my big things. Go to boldzebra.com so I can get a fruit phone.
Yeah, boldzebras.com for all of your whatever the hell it is that Shane does needs. You can get those at boldzebras.com. So thanks again to Shane for jumping in this week. I enjoy the banter. I would say I enjoy him contributing to the topics, but he does none of that work. It's just like all those years where he would just show up and I'd have the slide deck done. So we'll get this out by Thursday, and as always, reach out to me at Todd Klindt on Twitter, at Shane Scouse for that Yahoo, and we'll probably see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Toodles.